Tomorrow I'm heading off to Milan to see Newcastle United take on AC Milan, and I am super excited. I can't wait for a whole host of reasons, but I'm also, I have to admit, a little bit concerned if we encounter the AC Milan Ultras. It's coming up. Welcome back, it's Eddie here from Tyneside Life. The morning after beating Brentford yesterday, I'm out on one of my morning dog walks, which is my favourite part of the day. I just love being out in the fresh air with the dogs, Lily, Setu and Duke. Three of us out on this wet morning. So yeah, last night and now I've had a chance to look at the bigger moments on the telly, and that disallowed goal for Callum Wilson was absolutely ridiculous. That was so soft. So we have every right to complain about that. But the other penalty that was not given, the handball, no way in a million years was that a penalty. And just imagine if Man United were playing us and were given that penalty in the exact same circumstances, you'd be absolutely furious. So I agree with the VAR on that one. So take the positives from that game, which we have to, because it was a bit sluggish. I thought that performance, you know, we got 3 points, a clean sheet, and we kept some players back that we didn't need to use at all, that we can use for the Milan match. So all round a positive step, and chuffed a bit for those 3 points. So tomorrow I'm flying off to Milan on my own. Unfortunately, Helen isn't coming. We've had a right drama with the dogs. My mum's on holiday in Cyprus, who normally looks after me dogs. Hope you're having a nice time, ma'am. And so consequently we had to consider put them in kennels. We booked the kennels. Turns out that the vaccinations weren't up to date. In order to get them up to date, they would have had to go through the full course again, which is a 4-week gap between the 2 jabs. Cut a long story short, we now can't use the kennel, had to cancel it. So now we've got a dog problem. So Helen's taken one for the team and has volunteered to stay behind to look after the dogs, even though we've lost the money on her flight, which was already booked. So I'm going out there on my own. So we had a right drama with the apartment as well. I won't bore you with the details of that, but I've had to I've booked myself into a youth hostel in the old town of Milan, in the southwest, about a mile from the Naviglio Grande canal system, a beautiful part of the city. Can't wait for that. So yeah, I can go into a youth hostel because I'm still in my middle youth. Why shouldn't I? So I'm in a dormitory with 6 bunk beds, so that's going to be interesting. So there's Lily in the pond there behind us getting the ball. She loves getting the ball in water and rivers. And where I am now, I'm in a nature reserve on the very eastern edge of Gateshead before it turns into Hebburn. About 150 metres behind me, there's the Cock Crow Inn. You might have heard it before. Just look at that place, man. I love it. I love coming to places like this, on me dog walks, clear the head, think whatever I want to think about. It's liberating. Love it. And one of the things I'm really looking forward to when I go to Milan is heading down to that canal area, that old part of the city where it's going to be beautiful. To see all these bars and restaurants, and for Newcastle fans to get some cool beer on a hot day, and to celebrate and to sing songs, and there's no bother. Then we're going to the San Siro Stadium, watch the match, get 3 points. Tonali scores a hat-trick. We'll come back without any bother, no trouble, and we'll come back home to the UK. That's what I'm hoping for. Unfortunately, it might not be that simple, because across in Europe still it's very popular to have organised hooliganism. These gangs are called Ultras, and AC Milan is no exception. Their particular ultra gang is called the Curva Sud. Inter Milan, their bitter rivals, are the Curva Nord, which relate to particular parts of a football stadium. I didn't know that until I read up on that recently. So yeah, it's not like, in fact it's a bit like what the UK used to be like 30 years ago in terms of organised hooliganism. And I'm going to set out right in the very beginning here that I think all forms of violence like this and hooliganism is shameful, and it's embarrassment, and it puts a stain on football clubs. Thankfully, with the tightening up of the law in policing and CCTV and banning orders, we've managed to all but eradicate organised hooliganism here in the UK, but that's not the same in Europe. We have sporadic little outbursts here, and for me they're all cowards. They're embarrassing. You know, groups of men hunting around in packs on what they perceive to be weaker victims, and then throwing bottles and glasses and chairs and tables isn't bravery, it isn't courage, it isn't anything to be proud of. It's pathetic. Any club, doesn't matter who you are, even fans from Newcastle United, if you're going around doing that, you're cowards. So I have to make that absolutely clear. But there are sporadic outbursts of hooliganism here in the UK, usually 30, 40 somethings with, who are pot-bellied, beer-swilling lads who just want to strike fear in other groups of fans. In Europe, it's a bit different. These ultras, they're organised, they're highly motivated, and they're trained. They're almost like military units with their own war chants, if you like. It's really quite intimidating. And as much as I've said about the cowards and they're embarrassing, when it doesn't matter who they are, when these lads and these men are in packs, striking fear and violence, they're dangerous. Having said all that, I am going to try and engage with AC Milan fans if I can find them. I am going to be wandering around in Milan on my own for a little bit, doing some filming and putting 1 or 2 videos together. So if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you subscribe, because you don't want to miss these videos when they're released. There have been some 1 or 2 warnings put out by Newcastle United in relation to no-go areas in Milan. One of them being Pizza Hut. Don't go to Pizza Hut. Keep away from those big chains. Go to one of these authentic pasta and pizza places. I'm sure you'll find it much better. Just kidding. I think it's a Piazza Nord, somewhere around the stadium. Keep away from that. So one of my biggest fears is that, we've got hundreds or thousands of Newcastle fans down by the canal, singing with songs, drinking with cold Moretti, having a fantastic time, and all of a sudden 50 balaclavaed, motivated, organised men are running towards us, throwing bottles and glasses and chairs and indiscriminately attacking fans. You don't know what they might have, weapons and knives. You've got to be so careful. And another one of my fears is that Newcastle fans, when they don't have the right to do so, when some Italian fans might be just running away or running off, they start picking up their own chairs and tables and trying to throw at them as they're running past, destroying businesses. You're going to get caught on CCTV. If you're identified, you're going to get bans from the club. Just watch what you're doing, be very careful. Of course, you've got your right to defend yourself or others who you might be with. If you've been attacked, you have a right and law to do that. I'm talking about unnecessarily picking up weapons and throwing them when you really don't need to, because that's just going to cause a whole load of chaos. It's going to escalate things, and any sign of that, I'm out of it. Yous are going to get caught on camera. Hopefully it's not going to happen, but there is a concern of mine. Hopefully we can just go down to the canal and have a cracking time and a few beers. So I hope that doesn't come across as scaremongering. Go out there to have a good time, but be prepared. Have in your mind already when you're in Milan having a drink, have a think in advance of how you would respond or react to a real or perceived threat of danger or violence, because it could make or break your trip, or could make or break your life. You could come off a lot worse. So I hope all that doesn't sound patronising or condescending. I don't mean to sound like I'm trying to lecture you. Look, I'm a man of a certain age. I have particular life experiences. I know a thing or two about a thing or two. And I'm desperately keen for Newcastle fans, for us to go out there en masse, to have a great time, have some beers, sing some songs and win a football match. I should mention as well, the Italian police are notoriously heavy-handed. They will barely have a shred of sympathy or tolerance for away supporters that they perceive or starting, causing or contributing towards some bother out there. You'll get yourself locked up. Even if you think you're not doing anything particularly wrong, it'll ruin your trip, so you have to be really careful. Well, that's enough of me prattling on. I've got 3 wet, stinky and muddy dogs that I'm going to have to shower when I get back. Next time I'll see you, it'll be in Milan.